This video is sponsored by Chakra 17. Awaken your vitality with our anti-aging coffee.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. We have back a good friend, a returning guest, Miss Jennifer Easton Washington, who's been gracious enough to join us to do a reprise on the last time we had a podcast. Many of you received her well and asked her to come back. So she has been gracious to fit in time into her busy schedule to achieve that. So we'll be getting her insights on various things as we typically do today. If you're new to the podcast, please do like, subscribe, and share, as it helps the channel grow and others to gain in the knowledge you've been afforded. As you'll remember, Jennifer is a good friend of mine. She was one of the first people, along with Denise Boland, to give me an opportunity to get my voice heard on a platform on the financial front and on the God testimonial front, which has led to where we are today that only he could see. And so we always like to pay homage back to the people who gave us our first go around. She is a patriot, mother, grandmother. She is a gifted Christian and also writing a book that we're going to be talking about in a moment. She's going to tell you about that and all other insights in her world. So Jennifer, thanks for being on the podcast. How are you doing today, my dear?
Well, hello. I am doing well. Thank you so much. And thank you to your audience for welcoming me back. It's really an honor. How are you doing?
Likewise, always an honor to have you. Thank you for asking. A bit frenetic right now as we talked offline. There's the heat's been turned up on the plate, on the pot, so to speak, on the stove, and there's a lot going on. Obviously, geopolitically, financially. I think we're in now the fourth quarter slash first quarter, depending on your vantage point, where the late great Kim Clement talked about they will fall in the fall. I think we're getting ready to see a lot of financial moves, a lot of arrests, a lot of pivot points that people have been anxiously and frustratedly, understandably waiting to see. And we're doing our best to try to bring that to the people. We can't make it go any faster. We can only just try to light a pathway to the road ahead of what we see to try to help navigate the people safely to shore and to be successful in their different areas of need. So let's talk with a little bit about at the top of the page here, your book. I understand you're writing a book and you've been heavily engrossed in that. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Oh, sure. My book is a memoir, and I've been going over a retrospective of 60 years and going over events in my life as well as pop culture, because I'm really interested in a rewind of pop culture, not to stay in nostalgia or anything, but to understand a root cause analysis. So that's where I am right now with my own story and our story, our shared story here in America and abroad, because a lot of people, they join with us, conservative patriots all around the world. And that's the beautiful thing, is we're connected to people that see what's going on. They've had things go on in their own nations. They've tried to warn us, and they're really praying that we, when we have our victory visibly, because a lot of them understand that the victory is won already spiritually in ways we can't see, but we'll be able to see them soon. I'm getting a strong feeling.
I agree with you. And that kind of goes back to what we were just talking about a moment ago. And you're right. Ultimately, spiritually, it has been one. The challenge becomes everybody's mindset's at a different place. Some people, just like puberty, evolve quicker than others. And, some get it early, middle, later. And so for those who are still struggling to adjust to the fact that it's done because they don't optically see it done yet, they think it hasn't been done, but that's again a sort of a mindset, attitudinal change that everybody has to reach their own place at their own way of their learning curve. And again, we're just trying to help people the best we can. We can't do it for them, but we can try to, again, light that pathway. And I think you're one of those people that has been doing that for obviously a number of years. I think that's a challenge, is where you divorce the spiritual from the natural and how those two collide. So maybe that presents a question, Jennifer, that you might be able to assist with some of our audience. What has worked for you and other people in making that transition from the spiritual change to the natural change? What has been effective for you?
Well, for me, I've I've spent a lot of time in repentance. And for me, that has helped to course correct even my own thinking. And I haven't been in the Word of God like I should be, but that to me is a mindset changer. It can shift you from a mindset that is set on the world to a mindset that is set on the future, the kingdom, which is emerging. And it's hard to see it, especially when we've been in this world, this worldly system for all of our lives, and the psyops against our mind. And I've had to fight against that a lot. And it's helped, like I told you, I'm doing a retrospective root cause analysis. And I didn't have to go back far, 60 years of what's been going on in pop culture, and when you realize you have to detox basically from that, you'll the vision clears up. It's like anything they say, when you detox your body, things start to clear and vision clears a lot. So it's not one thing I found that has helped, but it's a multitude of things, but also leaning in more to the Most High Yah for understanding, because it's very muddy, the water. It's hard to see. And like they say, the fog of war, it's hard to see what's going on when you're in the war, which it seems peaceful in terms of some of our lives and what we open up our windows and see it. We don't see a war going on. Some people do, depending on where you live. But for me, it's just been a multitude of things to apply. And one of them has been to slow down, like a lot, to slow down and live a slower life where the mind can heal, because some of that fast paced stuff, when I've lived in big cities, it's hard to know. It's hard to tap in and know what's going on with yourself or with the world. You're just in this rut, and just energy being spent, but not really being spent in understanding. And that's the thing that I've had to understand and seek to understand a lot. People as well. We wanted to wake people up, and thinking it would be just a utopia right away. But realizing that 2/3 of the people are not going to wake up, and that's daunting to think about, but that's biblical. That's God's math. He's not expecting a great majority of people to wake up from the the world's beguilement, because that's what it does. It beguiles us, like it did Eve. The world beguiles and takes us away from our path. So yeah, all of that has helped. Slowing down and detaching from things that just they're not productive. They don't yield anything good. And that's been even relationships with people. I've had to just not fight for certain relationships anymore. If these people want to, I don't know, what is the word for it? If they want to stay in a certain thinking, and I've since left that behind,
Mm-hmm.
it's just no reason to fight for those type of relationships that are basically dead, just lots of dead things. So this is a time of renewal for a lot of people, renewing our minds and reset. We've heard that word reset. It's not a bad word to me. When I hear it, I'm like, the reset that I'm looking at is a good thing.
Absolutely.
I don't care what Klaus Schwab and those guys are saying.
Right. Right. Boy, Jennifer, thank you. You said a mouthful, and there's a lot to unpack within the nuances of what you shared. If we wanted to file folder and dissect it, but I think at the top of what you said, what I got was keeping short accounts with God. Keeping short inventory. That's something I work on every day. Is where can I get better? With Him, daily repentance. Three questions that I always ask God when I spend time with Him in the field is, how are you today? What can I do to help you move the kingdom forward? And the hard one, what's your opinion of me? Because it's not always something that we want to hear, but we need to, it's a relationship, right? And just like a human relationship between man and man or woman and woman or man and woman in a romantic setting, if you're just being one-sided, it's not going to go very far because it's just a very narcissistic point of view. And we got to stop treating God like our genie or Santa Claus or, like we're His servant, not the other way around. And I think that's something I've been reading in the Word that's really convicted me over the years. So you're absolutely right there. You talked about taking stock and inventory, like, vis-a-vis the memoirs and in human relationships is what I got out of what you said, if I heard correctly. And I couldn't agree with you more. It's just like I say to people in the past, there are some people who have the same friends from, they grow up in the same small town, and that's great. I mean, that some people are afforded that. Some of us are not as fortunate. We have to move to kind of go to our purpose calling. So for those who are able to do that, I salute them. Hallelujah. But most people in general, I know, don't have the same friends as they're growing in mindset, as they're growing in, life, education, family, whatever their pathways take them. They don't get to keep the same friends from third grade because people generally evolve. So there's a pruning process, and that's what I was getting at. I hear pruning, and I've had to experience that myself this year with some people that I very much care for and think highly of. But God showed me earlier this year through other people, and it's not to say that they're this, but metaphorically cut the dead weight. Because I'll give you an example, Jennifer, real quick. Years ago, when I had a house in Connecticut, it was about 3 acres, and 2 of the acres were heavily wooded forestry, like you would expect in the New England area and certain outskirts of the city, outside the city. And I noticed as I was landscaping, because kind of one thing I like to do is be in the earth, I was landscaping, and I noticed that there were a lot of trees bending this way. And then I started to look closer and I noticed that these particular trees had vines on them. They were wrapping the vines around the other trees. And I'm going, oh, those are the dead trees trying to wrap onto the good trees. And if I don't kill and shred the bad trees, they'll kill the entire forest. And that's a metaphor, I think, for our lives, is sometimes we have to prune back people or situations that are, if somebody's not adding to your life, they're taking away from it. And sometimes you have to make hard choices, not because you don't care about them, but if you don't take care of yourself, they'll enrapture you and ultimately take you away from your kingdom purpose. So I think you're absolutely on the right path with what you're saying as far as that. So moving ahead, talk a little bit about, last time we talked about, you were involved in and if I'm mischaracterizing this, forgive me, something to do with farming and supporting the local community. That's become a passion. Can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just plugging in with the locals. I do that occasionally. Sometimes I get away from it and I forget local. Everything is local. It should be. I think that's very American and just very family oriented, because it grounds you in home and hearth and community, which grows from your family. So I have to remind myself to take time to do that. Lately, I haven't. I've been very engrossed in this project, but I have reached out to some of the local farmers. I was involved with them years ago in the community, and I was going to the farmers market this past spring season and a lot of the summer. So I was displaying my knitwear, crochet things, and making treats, and also teaching. Someone asked me to teach. And I was very touched by that, because teaching is, sharing a gift, especially when it is a creative gift. And I was teaching children to knit and crochet, children and teenagers and adults. I didn't turn adults away, but it was powerful because I taught children that were learning it in one sitting. This generation, they are amazing. I know it's easy to talk about the bad parts of the younger generation. They call them what, the Zoomers, Gen Zs, and
Oh, Gen
stuff.
Z. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's easy to talk about them with their little Riz and all the stuff they talk about, but I have a lot of hope for that generation. I feel bad for the world that is being left behind. I take responsibility for that. I really do, for what I've not done in terms of stewardship to hand them something that's worthwhile, which, so I have a way that I look at that. But to teach them an enduring craft like knitting and crocheting, I give them a choice, give them a crochet hook, because I had all these crochet hooks. When you knit and crochet, my goodness, you start to hoard things. Well, I'm admitting to hoarding yarn and knitting hooks. I'd buy like doubles of different people that knit and crochet. I know they know what I'm talking about. It's like you end up having 8 H hooks and J hooks. You got 10 of them. And so I just started putting them in little, like the chemistry glass, the beakers and stuff. So I would put all these extra needles and put them on the table to display with little, balls of remnant yarn, and I put them in a glass jar, and I just say, pick out whatever you want. Pick a needle, pick a hook, pick 2 needles if they want to learn to knit. And I had boys sit down because I had chairs, and I had boys sit down, girls, like I said, old, young, and lots of conversations, which was amazing because that was the thing I really loved about connecting with the locals, is just talking to people, having that again, a place where the community can gather. It used to be normal. So I like to bring a lot of that back. And one of the ways is to go and do things like that, display some wares or whatever, support your local farmers market and places like that. So the conversations were incredible, especially with people that wanted to talk politics. I found that to be interesting. A lot of the people that would pass by, a couple of them assumed they knew my politics, which happens sometimes. Uh, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
They assume that I think a certain way
Right.
because of how I look.
Uh-huh.
And that is off. I made my mind up. I said, I'm not going to get involved in any political debates. I'm not going to get triggered. And so a couple of them, they tried to, oh, wow, Trump and, oh, the MAGA. And I would quietly just look at them like, oh, and they want me to join in. And they get nothing, and it was peaceful. I didn't have to tell them anything. I just, yeah, oh, okay. Just not doing it. You're not gonna get me to do it. Not today, Satan. So it was great because also there's a healing to it, especially with my local farmers market. You have everybody, all races and creeds and whatever. And you just have the conversations. I'm not afraid to have a conversation about race and stuff like that. I might engage them and things like that. It's just the politics. I just didn't want to hear from Trump deranged people and all of that. I'm over it. I get enough of it online, reading and hearing about their crash outs. I just wanted it to be peaceful. Can we just have a peaceful time of community? So, for the most part, really wonderful in interactions. And it shows like this racial healing because I'm in the South. Remember, it's like KKK and everybody's running around, killing and lynching and everything. And
Right.
when you begin to talk to people in your community and you realize you have so much in common, especially if you knit and crochet, how is race going to become an issue? Because there is no race when it comes to creating art. It shouldn't be, right? And that's a great equalizer and a great bridge, even intergenerationally. That's why I love it so much. It's like, it's a great balance and equalizer.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm just sitting here enjoying the conversation, listening to you and taking it in as usual with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's like, I think that goes back to our original point of this podcast is the mindset, right? We're going to have to learn as a nation, since we live here, and people watching here, wherever they're watching throughout the world, we're going to have to learn as a world, as a society, as a collective, how to divorce our mindset from all the MK Ultra. They did a really good job the last whatever 60, 100 years of brainwashing us that, oh, if you're a man, you're different. If you're a woman, if you're white, if you're melanated, I think is the term you like to use. I don't know what the term. I'm not melanated. I don't know. I'm sorry. Can I
I
get a
love
pass? This is not my wheelhouse, but all of that stuff, black, white, left, right, up, down, Coke, Pepsi, I always thought, why is it just this or that? Why can't there be space in the middle where, two things can exist simultaneously at the same time? We don't need to be in this society of extremes. And so what you're talking about, I hear, is how to function in your authenticity in a world that is mostly inauthentic. And how do you cultivate a sense of that in a place where you just want to be you, where you can let your hair down with knitting. And my grandmother, God rest her soul, I miss her every day. And my mom, she passed on my mom, my aunt, knitting, crocheting, and some of the other terms. Help me out here. What else is there? Needlepoint and
Yeah.
the things you
Quilting.
remember, huh?
Quilting.
Quilting, yeah, quilting. I used to watch my grandmother do that stuff for years, and it was so. I didn't necessarily have a desire to learn it, but just being around her was therapeutic to just sit and watch her because it was so. She was in her element, and it was nurturing and relaxing and just very at home, very very domesticated, you could say. And so it'll be nice for us to go into a world whereby we could just be our authentic selves with people in whatever we're doing, whether it's music, sports, knitting, crocheting, um, building houses, clay pot sculpturing. It doesn't really matter. That all that's like, why does politics have to come up into quilting? Like, I mean, I understand people are letting their guard down a little bit, but they're making a lot of assumptions, to your point, which should not be. So thank you for doing some of the work to help break through that. Now, again, this sort of last question I'll leave you with for today, amongst like sort of frameworks, if you will, isn't to trigger. It's more to explore the space, which you are always gracious to allow us to do. We talked about this on our last podcast, but you've talked about again, I don't know the term, so give me some rope here, melanated or non-white, whatever, person dealing with the knowledge that you have about the boule and the agenda to divide your culture in many different iterations. I guess my question is, are you seeing, as you're looking at the looking glass of society or everyday dealings, being in the South and also having family up north, are you seeing a trend of melanated people starting to open up their minds a little bit less that, well, if I'm this color, then I only vote this way? Is that starting to open up and loosen up a little bit in your estimation?
Mm-hmm. It is actually. I'm noticing people are tired of the psyops. I'm so tired of them. Like you were saying, it's just what's happened. And with my book, as well as the research I'm doing, just social media content, I'm doing a rewind, a retrospective. 60 years, John, just 60 years of what they've been doing. To take that segment of time and unwind it Oh my goodness. It's very clear to see what happened. Okay? Very clear. From the time of the 60s and the inorganic, inauthentic movements and marches and this and the other, I'm getting to see, wow, okay, that's what happened. They had to take, first of all, had to take the woman out of the home. Okay. That was number one. That was from the 50s, the trad wife that the TikTokers want to talk about, this trad wife trend. It's like, why is it a trend to be traditional? But I'm okay with this. It's not about us anymore. It really isn't. It's about the young people. And I hope they get it right. A lot of them, they do desire this trad wife thing, but they're using it, some of them, as an aesthetic, as a trend, as opposed to turning back and going back to those roots. But what happened, I'm seeing, is the woman was taken out of the home. And then when you look at what happened to my people, I know you say melanated, it's like, this is what I want my fellow white people to realize,
Sure.
just having this conversation
Mhm.
and being honest, is that when you look at my people, the so-called melanated, what's happening right now in culture is a big conversation is being had. And they're calling it a delineation movement. Whereas my people, Black Americans, I'll just use Black for now, Black Americans have been reclassified so much. Think about it. In your short lifetime, we haven't been around that long. How many changes? They've been Negroes, they've been no, went from
Colored, colored,
colored, Negro,
African
Black,
American.
African American. Like, how many groups does that happen to? Think about it. I mean, just
Yeah.
honestly, I'm not talking
Yep.
about all the foolishness is going on. I know people are talking about they have Black fatigue and all this, but I'm just saying, as a white person, to just think about that. Why is this group reclassified so much? What is that all about? No other group is reclassified. So there is a red flag right there, right?
True.
So we are not the same as Africans and Caribbean melanated. The Black American is very unique, with unique claims, very unique claims as Americans. We can't be deported. And that's what the Democrats are trying to scare the Black American. Oh, it's you next. You don't come out here and help us. Why is it that they expect Black Americans to come and help them? I thought we were a minority and we're not significant and we're this and that. They depend on the Black American. Think about that. Put on your tinfoil hat if you have to.
Mm.
They want the Black American to come and crash out and march and riot and loot for illegal immigration. Does that make any sense? And then they want to guilt the Black American, I'm talking about the liberal,
Mhm.
by saying, you're next. They're going to deport you next. And that is the most ignorant thing. The liberal is the real racist because they don't even know who my people are. They just use my people. They're the ones that reclassified my people. Jesse Jackson, liberal, Democrat. He's that's at his doorstep that he did that. But I'm just saying that to say that this is part of what I'm awakening to, right? Is
Mhm.
that you have people literally trying to guilt trip Black Americans to come out and crash out and go against ICE. And it's like, wait a minute, you liberal Democrats have imported the third world into our neighborhoods, the urban neighborhoods. That's where they put them. They didn't put them out in your neighborhood. You notice that? They
Mhm.
didn't they didn't go to the gated suburbs and stuff. They put them in the cities,
Okay.
Chicago, Los Angeles, Philly. And that way they blend in. You won't know a Black American from an African. or a Caribbean, right? You won't know the difference, but there is a difference. And that's why you'll notice that a lot of Black Americans are waking up because they're not coming out there. They're not coming out to march for anybody. They're saying it's none of our business. You all have that. It's all yours because illegal immigration hurts the Black American. But what's ironic about it is that the Black American was used as a crash dummy to make it possible for these immigrants to come through. Did you know that? They used the Civil Rights Act, 1965. See, a lot of this stuff was a trick bag. They put a name on it, but really what they were wanting to do is use the Black American to get out there and crash out and march and riot. And then they pass what sounds like it's for you, but it's really for the gay, it's for the LGBT. Because you know what I'm noticing? Right in the 60s, when they were doing these marches, civil rights, then they had the Stonewall issue in the Village in New York City. You know that wasn't authentic, that all of a sudden they have a riot breaking out and gay people are demanding their rights and out there marching with the signs. And it's like, oh, everybody's suddenly out here marching for rights. But it was all dovetailed from the civil rights, and you have the LGBT gay rights. Then you have every other floodgate opening. Women. It really benefited women ultimately. And this is what's wrong with, see, that's why I want my white brethren and sisters to really look at what happened. They used the they used the blacks of America. Think about it. It was a Trojan horse. They came through with civil rights, but really, see, they're playing the long game. They knew that we'll use these Black Americans, right? Then we'll get them all riled up. What we're really wanting, we want the gays to have their rights, but really ultimately we want the women to replace who? The white man. That's why I want you all to care about these issues and look a little deeper and have your red flags go up, because that's how your woman turned against you. And that's all I hear is white men are bad, white men bad, white men bad. I go on X and it's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You have us now taken up for white men. It's like, leave the white man alone for a minute. Y'all are attacking this poor white man. But it's like, it's weird how things
They
turn,
do.
you know? But I'm looking at it like, take the emotions out, take the team sport of it all out. My team, your team. No, I'm looking at the whole trick bag. I'm like, see, we all should have been caring about this stuff. The psyop happened on white minds too. The psyop was on all of our minds. If we wake up to that, like I've always said, we just need to sit down and break bread. You have to do it over food, okay?
Absolutely.
Hard conversations over food, some good food. Can you imagine some good food? And we have some hard conversations about what happened, because it's really a trick bag for both sides. You know, we got duped. And the people that made out the best, think about this, the gays and the women. And when I say the women, I'm talking about the cuckoo women, the liberal woman, totally nuts, the modern woman, a la Kevin Samuels, right? The freaking modern woman is a disaster, is a hate-filled lunatic who needs to be put in an asylum. I don't know what's going to be honest, some of them are too far gone. I've had enough debates with the nastiest women, and they call themselves nasty women, right? They're proud of it. I've had the most just unbelievable conversations with these women who claim to care about women, first of all, and they can be nowhere to be found when there are real egregious things happening to women, like
Mhm.
all the human trafficking of women. You don't see them doing anything about it. They don't raise their voice for that kind of stuff. But what it has been, it's been a power grab from the white man, because that's the power broker.
Right.
So they've taken power from the white man, given it to the woman and to the gay. And they use black people. You see it? It's like real simple.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the 60s. I'm like, they took women out of their homes. Come on, women, get into the workforce. We need two incomes so we can tax two incomes,
Right.
right? We need your children. So we need latchkey kids. We need kids that you're not really watching very well. And we're going to indoctrinate your children at school
CPS.
easily. And so now we got a bunch of kids now psyoped, right? Because
Absolutely.
your parents are too busy to look over what you're learning. Like I look at me, I was learning that if you use hairspray, you're going to mess up the ozone layer. You're going to put a hole in the ozone layer. Remember that?
I
We were
do.
all in arms. I'm coming home telling my mom, we can't have these products. We're putting a hole in the ozone. My mother's looking at what?
Yeah.
Ozone layer. They just make up stuff, fake science.
Right.
And then they moved on. What happened to the ozone layer all this time? You know what they're trying to tell us now? Oh, magically, we've been healing it. So, how did we heal the ozone layer, people? You see, that's not yet. Move on to the next psyop.
Right.
You see, so they get the children. That's why our children are just so against their parents and any
Yeah.
authority. They don't like the older generations, and it's because of this stuff. It's just progressively gotten worse,
I do.
and it's very unfortunate. And that's what I say, that I bear responsibility. My generation didn't hand them a good world. We didn't fight enough. We didn't fight that the schools would stop doing these things. We needed to go and be a part of the PTA and go to the meetings. Remember, we just started showing up to the meetings in 2020 and stuff. We
Hmm.
should have been doing that all along. Remember when they had the moral majority and all this stuff they were talking about back in the day? They didn't fight hard enough. They let the inmates run the asylum too long.
Right.
And so we can't just sit back and, oh my God, what happened? Now I see, like I said, writing this book, I'm like, oh, that's what happened. I see now. I'm so sorry. I have
No, yeah.
a
No.
lot of allergies, but do you see,
Same.
like, it's been so important for me to do this retrospective because I really see now what happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't organic. None of it was. We were doing fine. My stepfather, who died after getting the jab in the,
Hmm.
he he developed a turbo cancer and the whole thing. I watched him do that to himself. Okay. But he's in the Civil Rights Museum because he stood up for the civil rights movement. He was out there marching as a college student. He got expelled from college. He had to end up going into the army. He served in the army. So he did something good, but he ended up finishing up later. But he got caught up. They go to the colleges, because I had to think about that when he died. He and I had lots of conversations as he was dying, and I got to know a lot about him. But, you know, he got caught up. He was a young college kid. They come on the college campuses, they say the right things. You're young and impressionable, right? So he gets caught up, he gets expelled. But I was driving him to a doctor's appointment one day, and he wanted to go down a street, like childhood home, and he was just talking. He just started, person dying, they see things differently. So he was just pointing out things. He's like, "Yeah, I played in the neighborhood with we white kids, and we all played together." Do you know, just that simple thing? I looked at him, I was shocked, but I had to stop. I asked him to clarify. I said, "Wait a minute, you grew up on a block playing with white children? And he said, yeah, we played. We were all fine. And you know, that told me everything. He played in his childhood with white children, but then he goes to college and he's recruited into the civil rights movement. The fact that he could go to college at all, it says a lot, right? If he was in this dire situation, he wouldn't have been going to college. And he went to an HBCU. The fact that we've had HBCUs, how oppressed have we really been? So that made me start to question, like, wait a minute, his whole civil rights thing was based on this racialized narrative, but he grew up playing with white children with no issues. That's what I mean. This stuff is not organic. Now, if he told me a different story, oh, you know, they were coming and bombing my neighborhood, you know, the white kids and, you know, white people were coming in with the Klan outfits. No. They were living in the same, on the same street together. So, and in the deep South, did I add that part? In the deep South.
You sure did.
Living on the same street, whites and blacks. So really, what happened? And that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom. What really happened? Because that's not the narrative I would have expected him to tell me. You know?
Yeah.
So that's where I am with a lot of what I'm learning is I don't see organic grassroots issues. Something else is influencing all of this revolution. And see, the thing about revolution, I used to like that word. I thought it was positive, but it's going around, just going around. That's what revolutions are. They're just circulating, going nowhere, just going in circles. And that's what all revolutions are. You're having a revolution for women, a revolution for this one. And so whatever happens,
It's just circle.
Just a circle of going absolutely nowhere. So I don't like that word anymore. It has a negative connotation.
Sure.
Revolution. Yeah.
A lot to unpack once again, Jennifer, as we conclude, but to respect your time. But if there's a petition, I'm happy to sign, because I think what it comes down to, Jennifer, is where we went wrong. You said it all, but just to encapsulate what you said, we took God out of the societal construct. What replaced it? Government, man, the Jezebel spirit. And once feminism as a construct of the Jezebelian spirit took hold, it created division: divide by race, divide by age, divide by blah, 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 divide.
Mm-hmm.
It got us all these little cliques and sub camps that we've been in for far too long. And yeah, I mean, I've recognized it in my own race with some of these modern women, which is just a nice cover up for feminism, right? And they're some of the most miserable people I've ever met. Single women keep women single. Kevin Samuel said that, to quote him, But John Ego, to credit him, Currency 365 talked about this when I was in his Patreon a long time ago, that they started with your culture, right? Like you said, and it's been delineating down to mine, where let's divide the white people against the white Christian conservative male, because that's the hot topic. And next it will be whatever group they pick in this moving target. We need to come together as a society and stop that crap, full stop. Because what this really is Ephesians 6:12, spiritual warfare. That's what we're dealing with. And It isn't about the trad this or trad that. It's just getting back to basics. I wasn't around, but everything that my grandparents taught me about was there was a time where people could actually talk about their thoughts and have civil discourse. Whether they were Republican, Democrat was immaterial. Nobody, when I was a kid, ever said, "Hey, are you a Republican or a Democrat?" Now they ask you that. You might as well ask me how much money I make or what my personal life details, because that's what it's a very personal thing, but we've made it this demonic construct within society has taken. When I was a kid in theology, I had a teacher, Mr. Mahoney, who asked us, "What's the definition of profanity?" when you think of profanity, typically you go to cursing, right? But it goes deeper than that, Jennifer, which you'll appreciate. And we'll leave it with this: is the definition of profanity is to take something sacred and make it common, right? When we can take something that God made sacred, like sex, for example, and make it so accessible to anyone that it loses its importance and it no longer has any meaning, not to mention dividing us from God, then we're not left with very much. And you just take that down to any subject matter and it continues. That's, I think when it comes down to the bullseye of it, as we get back to God again, as we get back to morals, real food, real relationships, real conversations, real body parts, real, it shuts the enemy out. And as you said, it goes back to what you said: repentance, keeping short accounts. It starts within us. We need to make humility and accountability great again. And as we do that, I think everything else will permeate out. So appreciate all of your insights. Jennifer, as we close up for today, last thoughts you have for the audience, and where can people find your work, please?
Oh, thank you so much. I can be found usually the same name I have on screen here, Jennifer Easton Washington. I try to keep it, uniform across the social media platforms. I'm active on Instagram a lot. So if you find me on Instagram, you can look up that Jennifer Easton Washington, YouTube as well. And I haven't been doing a lot on TikTok, but it's the same name as well. And what did I say? Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Yeah, just keep it the same. And I've also been doing a project where I'm doing the 60-year rewind. If anybody ever wants to join, it's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on the Truth Seekers 88. So I've been playing music.
Nice.
Doing pop culture retrospective. So I'll be doing that at 7:30 Eastern time today, as well as Thursday and Saturday. So I do let people know that if you follow me on any of the socials, Instagram mainly, I'll let you know about that. And I'm sharing lots of popular music.
Great. If somebody wanted, real quick, if somebody wanted to go to any of your social media pages, is there anything about the farming initiative that you're doing?
Well, not at the moment. I need to connect with them, just reconnect rather, because I've understood that one of the farmers in my community, they need help with the honeybees. And I'm like so thrilled. Yeah. So I need to volunteer my time to help out the beekeeping effort. So I'll be doing some of that and keeping people posted, but I'm just clearing out some of my projects so I can, volunteer myself in that. And I just love that they need help. I mean, that's just the perfect place to want to help. Like, oh yeah.
Absolutely. And just know, Jennifer, we'll leave all those links in the description so people can find you like last time. But just know, Jennifer, whatever regrets you might have about the past of what your generation did or didn't do, when you know better, you do better. And now that you know better, this is going to be your chance to cement your legacy for your generation as well as current and future generations going forward. You'll be able to accelerate that with the time that God is giving us in this season. So just know that. So Jennifer Easton Washington, thank you, my dear, for joining us. Always a pleasure. Thank you for giving me a chance, 4+ years ago with Denise. You were partially wholly responsible for me being here today. And so the audience appreciates that. I want to give that homage back to you. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you again in the future.
Thank you. Take care. God bless everybody.
God bless everyone.